Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. John Lennon. Hi, this is Greg Starkman with Platinum Method Coaching. In today's installment of your Blueprint for Success, we're going to discuss goals and goal setting. The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. Goals are merely desires that we've defined and have attached a deadline to. Setting up and achieving healthy goals is essential to health and happiness, so having goals is always a good thing. Visualizing a goal is more important than having all the answers about how it's going to be achieved. The first stage in the construction of a house is the creation of a set of plans that show what the house will eventually look like. But without these plans, it's impossible to know what the end product should look like. So if you don't have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish in life, you can spend years going around in circles, committing to things that you don't care about, and become frustrated. People without goals often experience life as meaningless and directionless. A meaningful vision of your future could be as simple as making the difference in the life of one other person, or it could be as big as impacting the entire world, or anything in between. I remember many years ago I worked in downtown Los Angeles, and I was living in South Bay, which is around 20 miles away. When I'd be sitting in traffic, I'd pass by this nice building thinking to myself, if I worked there, I'd be there by now. How much better my life would be if I didn't have to drive an hour each way every day getting to and from work. So I said to myself, one day, I'm going to work in that building. And that became my goal. But I didn't have any process for achieving that goal. I didn't even know where to start. So when it comes to goal setting, it's like climbing a mountain. You have to start at the bottom with your short-term goals before you can get to the top. That means it takes time to achieve our goals, but accomplishing short-term goals along the way can help keep us inspired to continue. Consider them as stepping stones on your road to success. The mountain is a perfect analogy for me, as it has special significance, literally. I told you in another section that I have 3 boys, and I love hiking in Yosemite. One of the most challenging and exciting hikes in Yosemite is Half Dome, and I had done it a number of times when I was younger, and I had done it with my oldest son when he was 10. My middle son and I had tried to do it years earlier, but he wasn't ready to make it to the top. My youngest son, who's a great hiker, and never attempted it, but he was eager to do it. But the rules had changed from many years ago. So now in order to hike it, you have to first win a lottery to even be allowed to try. So this is one reason we hadn't even tried for the past few years. Plus, from years of wear and tear on my knee, it had deteriorated significantly. So even if I was given the opportunity, I wasn't sure I could make it without knee replacement surgery first. But this was to be my goal, to make it to the top of Half Dome with all 3 of my sons. We need all types of goals. Too many greatest life vision goals can be daunting, and it can be difficult to measure progress against. Too many short-term goals can cause us to lose sight of the bigger picture, but they do keep you heading in the right direction if done right. So we need the right combination of each type, and this depends on your specific goal. Your greatest life vision is your end destination. These goals typically are not achievable in one simple step. It usually involves a journey to reach each of these. Long-term goals are a series of goals that will take you to your end destination. Medium-term goals are goals that pull together the culmination of your short-term goals. And short-term goals are medium goals broken down into bite-sized chunks to make them more manageable. There may be many short-term goals, and these are small steps in the right direction toward both the long-term and your greatest life vision. For example, your greatest life vision might involve making some kind of difference in the lives of other people. A long-term goal might therefore involve getting your time back and becoming more financially free. This would then lead you to a medium-term goal, which might be to build a business that gives you passive income. And lastly, a short-term goal might be to develop yourself in some area, preparation of your business, for example, or taking a course. Once the short-term goals have been accomplished, you get a great sense of satisfaction as you've leapt onto the first step towards your greatest life vision. So use this as a motivation to identify your next set of short-term goals and to put them into action. Now, there are also goals related to new skills. These type of goals involve developing new skills or improving on your current skills in order to reach your long-term goals or your greatest life vision. And lastly, there are goals relating to kicking habits. These type of goals are related to beating old habits or developing better ones. If there's a habit that you've been identifying that's holding you back in some area of your life and preventing you from moving closer to your greatest life vision, then it may have to go. Next, I want to talk about the 7 deadly sins of goal setting. Now, these are pitfalls you need to be aware of when it comes to goal setting. The first one is not writing your goals down. The old concept, out of sight, out of mind, explains why goals and supporting action plans should be documented and stored somewhere visible. The most efficient way to reinforce a new concept that you learn or a long-term commitment to your goals is to write them down and put them someplace where you can see them, so you'll be reminded of them daily. The next sin is having unclear motivations. It's crucial that our goals are personal and meaningful. In other words, the reasons why we reach our goals are always going to be more important than the what, if we ever want to really succeed. Consider the big goal of getting rich. This goal will be completely meaningless to you unless there's a strong enough reason for you wanting to get rich in the first place, reinforced by your personal needs and wants. If your reason for making more money is just to buy more things or fuel your spending habits, it might be difficult to be truly motivated by this. However, if your primary reason is to pay off a family member's mortgage, give more to charity, or start a new social project, you'll most likely feel more passionate about seeing this process through to completion. Whatever your underlying reasons, you'll be more successful if it's directly personal to you. The third sin is setting unrealistic goals. Writing down a goal doesn't mean that it's going to happen by itself. Even our greatest intentions are meaningless without actions to follow them through. It's only through taking practical measures that you'll achieve your goals. And the only way to be able to action these goals is if you're genuinely passionate about them to begin with. Many people set up unrealistic deadlines for achieving their goals. If you were to consider how long it takes to develop a new skill, maybe like learning a new language, you know this doesn't happen overnight. Think about how long it can take to develop that new habit or break an old one, such as smoking or binge eating. Achieving goals that are meaningful will often require more time than we want to invest in them. We are all limited by our predispositions and natural abilities. The secret is to focus on our natural abilities and motivations as a driving force to move us forward. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. The fourth sin is not having an effective plan. Perfect planning prevents a partially poor performance. Having a well-considered goal in writing is the only introduction to a section of the greater story of your life. If we consider an action plan that directs us towards arriving at a final scene or chapter, then the goals that you set will be your final destination, and the action plans you create will become a map that will allow you to get there. Every successful mission has a well-thought-out plan attached to it. Be patient. Enjoy the process as if it's part of your life. Invest time into planning your journey so you can take the best route and get there in the best possible time. Our priorities and goals change as we progress our way through life. When this happens, it's important to stop, reflect, and consider going through the entire goal-setting process again. Doing this ensures that your goals still have relevant meaning attached to them, and as long as the meaning attached to your goals remains the same, we continue to act as the driving force that powers your actions and behaviors. The fifth sin is not taking appropriate action. Having a perfect set of goals for your life is useless if we don't action them. Though your plan will guide you and keep you on track on what you do, you're still the one who has to do these things. The action plan and your life goals most likely should be dynamic. These aims and plans will also be prone to change as you move forward in life and come across roadblocks, challenges, detours, obstacles. Sometimes your life will even change its course, which is not uncommon for people. So don't be concerned if you need to make changes or even go back to the starting line and try all over again. Sin number 6 is losing focus. Successfully achieving your goals will require focus, commitment, and persistence. Sometimes you might lose this focus, but it's important not to quit, as this is the only life you'll ever have. Try to stay focused. Try enlisting the help of a trusted friend or a personal mentor, maybe to support you throughout the process. You can share your successes and failures with them and learn from the experiences you encounter along the way. The final major sin is no follow-through. Goal setting is a lifetime process. It's pointless having a personalized set of goals, even with the most actionable plans, if it just sits in a drawer gathering dust and doing nothing. Your goals and action plan are your map to a meaningful future, and it's your guide for living and should frequently be referred to, as this will ensure that you keep heading in the right direction. To accomplish any goals in life, you need to know how to set those goals and get the process going. This requires careful consideration of what you truly want to achieve. So now that you have an idea what not to do, let's look at what we should be doing. I want to give you a system for setting goals, and we call this the Aim Smart system. This is going to help you stay on target. There's a classic quote in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland that goes, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there." Well, many of us have the best intentions in terms of getting things accomplished in our lives. However, we often wind up frustrated when we don't make progress towards our goals. Goals at times can feel overwhelming to us, particularly if there's a great deal necessary to accomplish them. When you set a goal for yourself or help someone else achieve their goals, you help yourself immensely when you set up a well-designed action plan. A well-designed action plan should include, the first step is being specific. Include the step-by-step processes on how you'll reach the goal. The second one is it has to be measurable. You want checkpoints, which help you quantify that you've completed a specific step. The third part of the acronym, A, is achievable steps in the plan or construction. Are they achievable? The fourth letter, R, are your reasonable expectations. Are you going to be able to do this at the current time? And the fifth step is time. You need to specify a time you'll be able to complete each step of the process. So once again, the entire process is called Aim Smart. We just went over the acronym SMART. S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is for achievable, R is for reasonable, and T is for time. An action plan which meets all 5 of these characteristics will help you accomplish a great deal by developing whatever you need to do to get there. Now, many times, however, even with the steps to accomplish you in a goal can be overwhelming. So we want to take this one step further. Once again, we just talked about the SMART process, but now I want to walk you through the AIM part of it. AIM stands for, the A is for acceptable minimum, I is for ideal, and M is for middle. Okay, so for example, what are you willing to do to complete the first step of the plan? What's the absolute minimum? Let's give you an example. Say our goal is to clean out your closet. The first step to achieve the absolute minimum is, say, we identify which items we want to keep. For example, which items we're going to throw out, which items are going to sell, etc. So the A in AIM gets you started, and it's better than doing nothing at all. The I stands for ideal. If everything goes right, what is the perfect outcome for the scenario? Using the closet example again, perhaps your first step has you removing from the closet all the items you no longer want to store in it, and you've accounted for where each item is going to go next. Depending on how cluttered your closet is, and also how organized you are in terms of knowing what to do with these items, which one you're discarding, this could be a very involved first step. The M in AIM stands for middle, where it's a realistic but yet stretch goal that you can reach in an agreed upon time, and it helps you get up your momentum. Again, with our closet example, if your closet's filled with a large number of shoes, maybe a realistic first step is to go through all the shoes and decide which pairs to keep and which to send elsewhere. When setting the realistic stretch goal, remember, the key is to make it time-oriented, so as to provide both a measurable checkpoint and provide you with a sense of accomplishment towards reaching the goal. So this is the AIM SMART process, and we'll go over this. I'm going to give you another example in a bit. Another system for achieving goals that you may have heard of is called creating a vision board. This is where we take what we want, we put pictures of it on a board, and then we once again keep this someplace where we can see it. So if it's fresh in our mind, we're always looking at it, it greatly increases our probability of getting there, because our mind is always working towards solving problems and moving us forward and getting us where we want to go. Wherever we focus our energy, that increases the probability of achieving those goals. Okay, now let's turn to greatest life vision. So this is really your overall largest goal. Your greatest life vision is a simple statement that outlines the ideal description of the main outcome of your life. This statement should inspire you. It should motivate you. It should drive you out of bed every morning, moving towards taking appropriate action that will bring you closer to fulfilling it. In this statement, we get perspective. It gets us through the tough times, and there are always going to be things that don't go right. But if you remain focused on the prize, consistent in your ways, and unaffected by the negative short-term things that happen, your peers, your family members, we can keep moving forward. The personal vision statement will become relevant in every area of your life, including your relationships, your career, your finances, your spare time, even your routine responsibilities. This statement becomes a vision for you, for your future, that will define every shape and direction you take until you eventually fulfill it. To understand what your greatest life vision might look like, consider a statement that you'll find, we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to have you do a little exercise that I think you'll find interesting. But your greatest life vision should be a verbalization of the words that you ideally want inscribed on your tombstone. Think of it as a reflection of the life that you lived and you want to be remembered by others. An obituary or an unabridged version of who you are and how you want to be remembered. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions to think about for the moment. Think about examples of your social life, career, finances, and even your closest relationships. How do you define personal success? What are your most prominent characteristics? What are your finest personal qualities? How would you not like to be remembered? What would you like to contribute to the world and all of the people in it? It might be true that you want to be remembered in several ways. For example, as a career woman, a family man, a highly skilled professional, or perhaps a shrewd business person. But as you're more likely already aware, there are many areas in your life to consider when it comes to life planning, and placing too much focus on any one area in your life can easily leave you sacrificing another. A good example of misplaced priorities is when people place more importance on developing their career than they do their maintaining healthy relationships. Money can often be at the cost of intimacy or connection. Many people commit their lives to pursuing to empty goals of power, ambition, making money, only to end up neglecting their family or losing the respect of their spouses and children. Upon reaching the end of life, it's common for many people to look back on their lives with regret, mourning the relationships that they missed out on. I once had a conversation with a depressed millionairess whose greatest regret in life was that she placed more importance on her social status than she did on developing strong relationships with her children. It's probably fair to assume that not many people enter their final hours wishing that they earned more money, or they'd spent more time at work, or building their business, or someone else's. An indication that someone has failed terribly at planning their life is found in the regrets and sorrows that they have in their final hours. All the things they wish they'd done, they wish they hadn't done, the people they could have helped, people that they didn't help along the way, and because they chose not to. Life is about balance, and it's only you who knows what the right balance is for you. Although it can be hard to articulate our greatest vision, attempt to visualize your life, what your life's greatest vision should be. Think of it, try to visualize your life if it was perfect in every single way. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to give you a rather brutal example here of how people do not want to be remembered by others. So, don't get upset. This is an actual obituary of Mary Ann Johnson Riddick. Mary Ann Teresa Johnson Riddick was born in 1935, and she died alone in 2013. She's survived by her children, who spent her entire lifetime torturing in every way possible. When she neglected and abused her small children, she refused to allow anyone else to show compassion towards them. When they became adults, she stalked and tortured anyone who dared to love them. Everyone she met was tortured by her cruelty, and their exposure to violence, criminal activity, vulgarity, and the hatred of the kind human spirit. On behalf of the children whom she so abrasively exposed to her evil and violent life, we celebrate her passing and hope that she now has to relive the gestures of violence and cruelty that she put her children through. Her surviving children will live the rest of their lives in peace, knowing that the nightmare has finally come to an end. Most of us have found peace in helping those who have been exposed to child abuse. We hope this message of her final passing will revive our message that abusing children is vulgar and should not be tolerated in any humane society. Our greatest wish now is to stimulate a national movement that mandates a purposeful and dedicated war against child abuse in the U.S. Wow. The most pathetic person in the world is someone who has no sight, or has sight but no vision. Now, that was a pretty rough example, of course. I did warn you first. But I did that because I want to give you an idea of what to do here. I want you to start thinking about your tombstone. What do you want to be remembered for? To spend a few minutes right now just thinking about it. Who are you? What do you want to accomplish in your life? And when your time comes, how do you want to be remembered? Start with the best case scenario of what you want people to think about you. Think about all the great things you've done, and think about an inscription that can be a vision for your life. This should help you establish a new standard and maybe a perspective for your life. You'll define what's most important to you, also in a way which you can conduct yourself in relation with other people that you can remember for the remainder of your days. Just take a minute to think about that. Pause this if you need to. All right. I'm back. I don't know if you're ready, but I'm back. Let's talk now about defining the priority areas in your life. Due to the experience of life so far, you may have realized that when you think about your life as a whole, there are many areas to consider, and just as many areas to balance. Life balance should be one of our greatest goals. Has there ever been a time in your life when you've been so focused on achieving a goal in one area of your life that it came at the cost of something else in another area of your life? This is a common and recurring problem for many people today. Maybe it's a strong focus on your career, so you neglect your health, or a focus on a new relationship, where you forget your friends. Each time you commit your energy to one thing, you're often unknowingly choosing to pull it away from something else. It pays to make decisions wisely. All of us only have a limited amount of time and energy each day. No matter how passionately we commit ourselves to moving forward, no one can do everything all the time. We may rack up possessions, promotions, or perform more personal bests. We might even achieve the prestige goals of fame and immense fortune. But we're ascertaining these things at the cost of more important things, then our chances of enjoying a fulfilling life balanced are slim. It's important to be aware of what we're sacrificing in the attempts of getting something else. Economists call this opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is what you have to give up in order to get something else. I mean, what could be more straightforward? If you want one thing, you have to give up something else. This simple idea, though, can easily turn out to be more subtle than it first initially appears. So how do we balance our most important goals in each of our life areas? How do we determine which are most important? Regardless of whether a goal is an accomplishment, an acquisition, a new intimate relationship, here are a couple of questions we should think about. What is the impact in pursuing this goal likely to have on my time? What else could suffer the consequences if I divided my attention and I commit to this pursuit? In what ways does this effort complement or distract from my greatest life vision? Though this may sound a little sadistic, this line of self-inquiry can be hugely clarifying, because if we don't commit to pursuing our greatest life vision, we may end up compromising our standards on a daily basis. Stephen Covey once suggested that without a clear focus for guiding our values and priorities, each of us runs a real risk of successfully climbing a very long ladder, only to find it leaning against the wrong wall. This is why our core priorities are worth more consideration. Repeatedly, habitually, and any time we're able to devote to a given pursuit, it comes from a different area. So let's think about, I'm going to give you these 7 major areas of life, and I want you to start thinking about which needs balance, which is working well for you, which isn't. The areas of social and family relationships, career and education, money and finance, physical health, life's routine responsibilities, legacy and giving back to society, and mental, emotional, and spiritual health. The importance that we place on these life areas will differ person to person, of course. However, if we become able to maintain an element of focus in all of our life areas, we're more likely to achieve a healthy life balance. I want you to break your life down into the 7 categories that we just talked about. And I want you to start thinking about a vision for each one. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions just from each. I mean, there are many questions we can ask ourselves, but I just want to get the ball rolling. So with regard to social and family relationships, how satisfied are you with your family relationships? How close are you to your parents? How close are you to your children? With regard to career and education, how important are career achievements to you? Does your career stimulate and develop you as a person? How important and strong are the working relationships you have now? How urgently would you like a career change? With regard to money and personal finances, how satisfied are you with your current financial effectiveness? Do you have enough money to meet your current needs? For health, recreation, and leisure, how important is it to establish a healthy work-life balance for you? How important is your physical health? How is your physical health? Life's routine responsibilities. How satisfied are you with how you currently handle routine tasks? How important is prioritizing your responsibilities? Legacy, contribution, and giving back to society. How satisfied are you with how much you give to society? Do you regularly make a positive impact on the lives of other people? The last area is mental and emotional health. How important is it being emotionally healthy to you? And how emotionally healthy do you feel currently? So these are I just gave you, a couple of examples for each. You can email me and I can give you a full list of questions, but it's important that we define each of these areas. We look at, are we in balance? Are we moving forward? We need a lot of help there. So what I want you to do now, for those 7 areas, is start thinking about how to write a vision statement for each. Because once again, these are the major areas of life. If you have all of these in balance and all of these covered, chances are you're leading a happy, successful, fulfilling life. But if not, it's better if we can identify which ones we need to focus on. So finally here, I want to give you these are like general self-evaluation questions. Summarize what you'd like your life to look like, your ideal life. What are the main challenges that you're currently facing in your life? What is working really well at this stage of your life? What would you like to feel more effective at doing? What words would other people use to describe you? And which part of your life feels like it's most out of balance? So once again, I want you to just think about that for a second. Or, as usual, you can always stop this and put a lot of thought into it, because this is important. This is where the rubber meets the road. Okay. Now, I want to go back to my Yosemite story. So once again, this is really about goal setting. So, we had a number of challenges of short-term goals that needed to be achieved before we could reach the long-term goal of getting to the top of Half Dome with my 3 sons. And some of those challenges were significant, and also not necessarily within my control. For example, I really needed a full knee replacement. Now that was achievable, but that took some doing. I also needed to coordinate the schedules of all 4 of us, which was difficult for multiple reasons. The first is my older 2 sons are both away at college and both have work commitments during school year and over the summer. But the biggest challenge was we had to win the lottery, even to be given the opportunity to try to climb it. So while you could increase your chances by entering the lottery up to 8 times each year, ultimately, it's a variable you couldn't control. Plus, it's difficult to predict physical conditioning after having knee surgery. So I had no idea if I'd ever be able to do anything so strenuous again. So I want to bring everything back now. I want to put this into the AIM SMART process that we looked at earlier, and just to give you an idea what it looks like. Once again, the A in AIM stands for acceptable minimum. For this, it would be we would all start out together, and perhaps one of us would make it to the top. The I in AIM represents our ideal completion. For this particular goal, it would be that we all make it to the top. The M stands for our middle or realistic stretch goal, and that would be that some of us make it to the top. Now the SMART part: specific, measurable, achievable, reasonable, and time. Specific would be winning the lottery, the training, the knee replacement operation, coordination of the schedules, and getting lodging accommodations. Measurable would be, if we attempted it, would all 4 of us make it to the top? When would we do it? When would we win the lottery? When would we know we won it? Achievable would be looking at the whole thing. It might take a bit of luck, but it was achievable. Definitely something that could be done. Reasonable. Could it be done with a bad knee? Could we win the lottery? Would we, meaning me, be in good enough shape to do it? And could we coordinate everybody's schedule? And the T for time would be, first I'd have to have the knee operation, then recuperate, train, and then hope to win the lottery, and hope everyone is available. So that's, once again, in this real-life example, if we plug everything in, what it would look like. Now, let's look at what actually happened. Sometimes life works in mysterious ways, and things rarely go exactly as planned. In January of that year, I decided to go ahead with my knee surgery, and I scheduled it for July. The lottery for Half Dome is done in March. We had tried the previous 3 years in a row unsuccessfully, but we were hopeful. And sure enough, Murphy's Law, this year we finally won the lottery. But once again, that was in March. The knee surgery was scheduled for July, so this was not going to allow enough time for my operation and recuperation. I wouldn't even have the operation by then. So this part of the plan had to be revisited. Also, another problem is we did win the lottery, but we only received 3 permits, not the 4 that we needed. So after reevaluating the situation, we had to modify our specifics a bit. I decided we should still go for it. Remember, when opportunity knocks, you want to open that door. So I immediately notified the troops that we had a date and we should begin doing whatever it takes to do the necessary preparation. And, being we were all living in different places, everyone was going to have to prepare on their own. I called around and eventually got some lodging, which actually took quite a bit of work. For some reason which I was unaware of at that time, it was difficult to get lodging that year. Eventually I learned that President Obama was going to be in Yosemite the same weekend as our trip. Just my luck. The first president to visit the park in 50 years, and it had to be on the weekend we were going to be there. Anyway, all the preparations were made, and we went for it. I was not able to have the knee operation before, but I was still determined to do it. So we began the 16-mile round-trip hike, and after 5 hours, we got near the last part of the hike, which is called Subdome. That's the part where the ranger checks your permits. Now, in my mind, I'd already decided that I was going to yield and allow my 3 sons to complete the journey without me. So when we got to where the ranger was, I explained to him that we only had 3 permits, but yet there were 4 of us. Here's where fate lent a hand. He said that someone had just canceled, and he just happened to have an extra permit that we could use. Go figure. I wasn't sure it was a blessing or a curse at that point, because after 7 miles of hiking, my knee was swollen and screaming at that point. But we accepted the permit, and ultimately we made it to the top. It was a great feeling achieving that goal. Of course, I had no idea how I was going to get down, but the adrenaline and testosterone were flowing, so at that point, there was nothing stopping me. Now, aside from this being a true story, it's actually a pretty good example of goal setting, because it contains not only all the elements of our Aim Smart process that we just learned, but also things that, people rarely mention, like what do you do when things go wrong? And things rarely go exactly according to plan. Well, thanks for letting me relive that great experience, and hopefully you got something out of it too, and it shows you how you can use the Aim Smart process. By the way, on a different note, remember at the beginning of this, I told you about that great building? Well, guess what building I work in now? Wink, wink, smiley face. Anyway, this is Greg from Platinum Method Coaching, where we help professionals find meaning and success in their lives by aligning their talents with their passions, enabling them to realize their full potential. We offer personalized coaching for career change or affecting positive change in your life. Remember, if you have any questions, especially about what we talked about today with goal setting, call me at 800-217-7113 to take the first step to bring your life back into balance. You can also email me at greg@platinummethod.coaching.com or visit our website at platinummethod.coaching.com or follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Yelp. Till next time, remember, you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. So make it a great day.